Hi everybody, it's Mrs. Peachy from your WCA Earth Science class, and today we are going to be doing a tutorial for the portfolio from Unit 3, Lesson 4, Heating, Land, and Water. Now, I'm going to be doing an alternate version here, and I'll explain a little bit how it differs from what is actually presented to you in the lesson. So the procedure that I will be doing actually will be hands-on versus the one in the lesson, which uses a kind of like a model, okay? Now, I prefer this one because it's kind of more realistic in a way. The data is obviously stuff that you're actually gathering yourselves. But if you do not have the materials for this, then you could, of course, do the one that is presented in the lesson itself. All right, so as far as what you need, I'm going to go ahead and kind of give you full view here. It's very large. You will need some soil. So I have 2 cups. Each one is filled, I don't know, about a little more than halfway with soil. One is dry soil, completely dry. Actually, I got this last fall, so it's really dry. And one is wet soil. So I wet it up and I stirred it around to make sure it's pretty wet. And then the third little cup here is filled with just water to the same volume as the soil samples, okay? And then I need a thermometer, one for each of my containers. I have one extra here that I will not need. These I had pretty, already gotten years ago for science, but you can find thermometers like this with aquarium supplies and stuff like that for your fish tanks. Otherwise, you may have some thermometers at home. They don't have to be exactly the same thermometers, but of course, they should all measure, to the correct temperature. Same scale, whether or not you're using Fahrenheit or Celsius. And then you need a heat source. And initially we had used light bulbs, but what we're finding is that many people are going to compact fluorescent light bulbs now instead of going in LEDs and stuff like that. And they're not really provide a lot of energy. So what I'm actually using is a little portable heater. What works really well too is a heat lamp. So one of those red heat lamps would work pretty well. Or if you have a nice, powerful incandescent light bulb, the kind with the metal filament, that would work too. But the heater works pretty well. So what we're going to do is we're going to use the template that I have. And let me go ahead and share my screen back with you again. I'm going to go to the Earth Science website, which is accessible through my message boards, right? And then you'll see that there is a link here for the Heating, Land, and Water template, which when you click on this link, brings you to a template for this portfolio, which you can use for either this setup or the one that is given to you, in the lesson itself. And, what was I going to say? Oh, you can save this. You can download it as a Word document or an OpenOffice or something if you would prefer to do that. And that's easier than to upload as into the Dropbox. Okay. So I have done that. This is mine here. And this is what we're going to kind of look at. You should write an introduction, and then you need to make a hypothesis. And your hypothesis really would be which one of these 3 do you think would heat up quicker and get hotter? So look at rate of temperature change as well as total temperature change, right? You're going to list the materials that you use, which will be different kind of depending upon whether or not you're doing the hands-on one that I'm describing to you or whether or not you're going to be doing the one in the kind of the pseudo sim one. Talk about the steps you use to complete this lab, which we'll be kind of working through today. And then I will walk you through how to do a graph of your data, which is important. And then finally, we do have some analysis questions to answer, okay? Okay, so essentially we're looking at how does, the environment affect temperature change and really climate, depends upon the environment. So what I would say is you want to make sure that all of your samples are equal distance away from your heat source. I'm going to go ahead and use the larger view again. So I'm going to put mine maybe about 6 inches away. I don't want to make it so close that I run the risk of melting the plastic, but I definitely want to have a temperature change within a fairly short period of time. I want to make sure these are equal distance away. Okay. Now I don't want this thing to move either. It's an oscillating, meaning it moves back and forth fan, and I just turned that off so it doesn't do that. And then finally I'm going to put my thermometers in, and I'm going to measure the initial temperature. So I want to wait for these guys to kind of, settle. The temperature should start to change, especially in the water, and it will come to kind of a state of equilibrium in approximately 2 minutes. So wait for about 2 minutes before you take your initial temperature reading. So I'll go ahead and just pause this for 2 minutes and then we'll come back, okay? All right, so I've given it a couple minutes to kind of come to a state of equilibrium. I'm going to put this back on this mode here. And we'll go ahead and mark our initial starting temperature. So our starting temperature for the water is, looks like it's about, just hang on a sec. About 62 degrees. For the dry soil, we have 78. And for the damp soil, we are at 74. So we don't have the same starting temperature, which you really need to make sure that you take that into consideration when you're coming up with your conclusions, because it's not just going to be about who gets the hottest, but it's going to be about change in temperature. So we're really going to be looking at the slope of the line, okay? So now what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and turn this heater on, and I'm having it on full blast heat. And we're going to start our stopwatch. And we're going to go ahead and take a temperature reading every minute. Okay, for 10 minutes. You can actually even extend this if you want. I've had people do as much as 20 or 30 minutes. Especially if they weren't seeing, very good results. I want to make sure my thermometers are pretty evenly spaced as well, because I think that's pretty important. You don't want the one thermometer to be really close and another one to be really far away. I feel like I also would like to kind of tip this a little bit so that the heat is kind of aimed directly at my beakers. Okay? Make this a little bit bigger. Kind of see a better showing here. I'm getting close. I don't expect much of a change right away, so. All right, we're at a minute, a little over a minute actually. And I am at 64. I'm going to go back to, so a little bit of a change here. Either that or Mrs. Peachy can't read a thermometer. 72, I don't know. 78, I think, also. And 78. Okay, is that really? Oh, it's gone up quite a bit, actually. Okay, so then it might be better. I mean, maybe I should change these and do these every 2 minutes, because I'm already at 2, obviously. So you may want to make these intervals longer. It's actually probably not a bad idea. Maybe put at least 2 minutes between and do 20 minutes total instead of doing 10 minutes total. So just keep taking those temperatures, guys, over that time, okay? So you get the idea. I'm not going to sit here and do this, but I'm going to go ahead and put this away, and then we'll resume looking at the data. Okay, so what you're going to want to do next then is we're going to graph the data, and this is the section on data, and I'm going to have you go to the top of the screen and go to Insert, Chart. And what I want you to pick is the line graph, and I want you to pick the one that has markers on it. So like this one, line with markers. Okay? And then go ahead and select OK. Okay. And then this is going to give you a little, I guess, in Microsoft Office, you get like a little window for Excel. What you're going to want to call these, instead of series 1, 2, and 3, I want you to call these dry soil, wet soil, and what did we say? Water, right? And then these are going to be your temperatures, so this is going to be time. So this is going to be 2 minutes. Or we can just put, you know, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, right? And then what you're going to do is you're going to start by including, you know, the initial temperature here for the dry soil, which we said was 62 degrees. And then for the wet soil, it was, well, I'm sorry, the dry soil was 74 degrees. My bad. Wet soil was 70, I could try this one more time. This is 78 degrees. Wet soil 74 degrees, and water was 62. And then, oh, that was our initial temperature. So I'm going to have to change these, sorry, to 0, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20. So you do need to have a 0 there to represent, you know, the starting time. And then for dry soil, we ended up with 78 as well after 2 minutes. For wet soil, it was 78, and for water, it was 64. And, you know, right now I don't have any more data because I didn't do any more data, but you would. And so when I go down to the graph, you can see those lines are starting to form, right? So you would continue to fill out your data there. And then if you wanted to get some, you know, stuff on the graph here, double click on this thing. And you can go up to quick layout, for example, and it allows you to put your data table right next to your chart, which I really like to do. And then if you go to, let's see, if you go to format, you should be able to, where is that at? Oh, here we go. It's under design. You're going to go to add chart element. You're going to put titles on your axes, right? So for example, I can do this and then put a title on my vertical axes, and then I can click on that and I can change this to, you know, time in minutes, right? So that's kind of what you're going to do there. When you're done with the chart, you can answer these analyze and conclude questions. And basically that's going to be the end of it. Now, when you are doing the version that's online versus this one, so if you're instead of, you know, using the data that you collect, you're using the stuff online, you're just using a sim and you're doing the same thing, but picking 3 types of bricks and a simulated light detector. So that's what I'd have you do there.